Really exciting episode of Locked On Blue Devils here today. We get to welcome Maliq Brown to the Brotherhood. The Syracuse transfer forward committed to Duke basketball over the weekend. We got to talk about it.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Happy Earth Day to everyone out there on this fine Monday. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, as Locked On Blue Devils is your daily one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. Over the weekend, we saw some good action from the Duke softball and Duke baseball team. We saw the Duke football spring game and also got some commitments from Duke basketball in regards to Maliq Brown, who over the weekend decided to transfer and play for Duke basketball this upcoming season. So let's talk about all of that and more with our good friend Jordan Mann, who joins us on today's show. Also, if you haven't done so, please be sure to watch our show each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to continue to grow this community. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So now we bring him on in. He's here. It's Jordan Mann with us once again. Jordan, I hope you're doing well, my friend.
Yeah, brother, I'm doing well. Look, Shire's at it again in the portal. The sky was falling for Duke. People were freaking out. Shire's got it. Shire knows what Duke needs, and Maliq Brown is the first key piece for Duke.
Yeah, and we got to talk a lot about it today, but I got to give you 60 seconds here right at the start because there's another Maliq I'm sure you want to give some praise to who was on the gridiron this past weekend.
Yeah, Malik Murphy. I mean, look, that dude, what a live arm he has. You can't really see much, obviously, with the spring. It was more like a showcase, but you see where he was
wearing a real Duke uniform. Like, this is happening. He's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, hopefully he's going to be quarterback. I mean, obviously they have QB competition, but I think he is QB1, and he showed a live arm in the spring game, and I can't wait to see him in the fall, JJ.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll have continued coverage of Duke football in the days and weeks to come, and certainly getting closer to that start of fall camp. But now we got to talk about basketball. The transfer portal is buzzing like crazy. More Duke players are in the portal than we saw last year because nobody was in the portal from the Duke basketball team, but TJ Power and Sean Stewart joined the mix. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But Duke got a commit in the likes of Maliq Brown, who comes over from Syracuse. What do you think Duke's getting in this player, Jordan?
Well, look, it's been interesting because, the narrative that Duke was soft this whole season was, people were saying that as takes and stuff. And honestly, I brushed the back against that. I was like, you know what? Duke made it to the Elite Eight regardless, like what the narrative was. But Maliq Brown is not soft. And it looks like Shire is really trying to make a defensive-oriented team. He's taking that serious with older guys in the portal he's going after, like Maliq Brown. And he was the ACC all-defensive team with 2.2 steals per game, 1 block per game. He hustles his tail off from the wing position. Like, the guy is everything but soft. And Duke wants to punch people in the mouth next year and win games defensively. And one guy that Duke missed out on was Amari Williams, who Drexel guy committed to Kentucky, but he was 3 times CAA Defense Player of the Year. Duke was looking at him, Maliq Brown now, and it's nice to see that Shire's like, you know what, we're going to be tougher than everybody next year and surround Cooper Flagg and company with some veteran key pieces.
Yeah, it seems like that's very clear that Duke wants to get tougher, so to speak, out there on the basketball floor because pure talent is coming in the likes of freshmen. And you could argue pure talent is coming back in the likes of Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, but those are at the guard position. So building out the depth on the interior, Duke wasn't as deep as I think he would like to be when we look at what this Duke basketball team was this past season. Now, yes, Sean Stewart could have used more playing time to add to that depth, right? There were ups and downs throughout the entire season of what Ryan Young did for the Duke basketball team. But, let's talk about what's coming in now for Duke, and it feels like that's been a point of emphasis to your point that, yeah, you've got the 2 stars and freshmen coming in there in the post, but they need some depth and they need some toughness as well.
Yeah, they need depth, they need toughness, and they just need guys that have been through the fire in multiple seasons. And that's what Maliq Brown brings to Duke. Like, played at Syracuse, he had 20-some points against Duke and Cameron this past year. Like, he averaged almost 10 points per game on 70% from the field, 7 rebounds. And most of his scoring was at the rim. Like 120 of his 127 makes were from inside the paint around the rim. And that's perfectly fine, because what Duke needs and what good programs have, as you have seen UConn have back-to-back years now, are very good to elite role players. And Maliq Brown is that piece. Like, we're not asking Maliq Brown to go out there and drop 20 and 10. When you're out there, be disruptive defensively like you do, play your game, and then be a guy that crashes the glass offensively for Duke, which he will do at the 3 or 4 position. Like, I think there's only going to be one guy that has a position. That's Maliq, I think is how you pronounce his name, as a true 5. I think everybody else, potentially 1 through 4, is going to be positionless basketball. Like Proctor and Foster will be interchangeable up top, and then the wings are going to be interchangeable, and that's okay. Duke wants to play like that.
Really excited to see this roster continue to be put together. More spots are now open as Sean Stewart and TJ Power have entered the transfer portal. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But, yeah, we got to give Maliq Brown some more love. He's the newest member of the Brotherhood, and we'll continue our breakdown of him and more when we come back on the other side of this timeout. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn, of course, is the place for you to go when you're hiring for your small business. You want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Go ahead and post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn Jobs, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, let's keep it moving here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. My name is JJ Jackson. I am joined today by my good friend Jordan Mann of the Big J and Little J Show. Promote that show, if you will, because there was a lot of player movement before these commitments took place. You had a new episode out there. You talk football coming up in the offseason and getting ready for this upcoming season. Tell us a little bit about the Big J and Little J Show, Jordan.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, JJ. Yeah, Big J and Little J Show. We came out with the episode last week about the latest update to Duke's roster. Obviously, now we'll have to come up with another episode this upcoming week or the week after, talking about the current state of Duke's roster with Sean Stewart, TJ Power officially leaving, and then obviously Maliq Brown committing and much more. And look, there is this off season, but there's no days off, JJ. I thought for sure we'd have like a little break going into the season 3. We're in season 2.5, and we'll continue to put out content as much as Duke keeps being in the news.
Yeah, no, if there's news to discuss, you guys do a great job of doing that, and that's exactly why I like having you on the program for your perspective, and we're going to continue to do this here on Locked On Blue Devils and the Big J and Little J Show. So we're talking about Maliq Brown, who's the newest Duke Blue Devil. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can now see a photo that Maliq Brown posted on Instagram from his visit there over the weekend, or at the end of last week, I should say. Looks pretty dope, Jordan. I got to say, this is a pretty tough photo that the Instagram was able to produce for Maliq Brown.
Dope and tough. I hear you, JJ. But yes, it's a very good photo. I mean, it's a great jacket, and those shorts are dope. And obviously, everything Duke in there is pretty sick. But look, I'm excited for him. I think he also have a chip on his shoulder. Like, one thing that we need to talk about too is the kid's from Virginia, and UVA and Virginia Tech passed on him, so he went to Syracuse. When Duke plays Virginia and Virginia Tech, the dude already plays hard every game. Those games he's going to have circled on his calendar, and I can't wait to watch him play.
Without a doubt, a big season this past year for Syracuse. As you said, he's played 2 years of college basketball, so 2 years of eligibility remaining for Maliq Brown. 9.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, nearly 70% shooting from the floor, and 72% from the free throw line. So he got the job done. On the offensive end, you alluded to it a moment ago, but give me those numbers again, Jordan, in terms of what we're going to expect out of Maliq on the offensive side.
Yeah, I mean, he just finishes around the rim a lot. Like I said, 120 of his 127 makes were in the paint around the rim. But he had a 3 against Duke and Cameron, and I know that goes with the narrative that everybody makes 3s against Duke and Cameron. But his shot, his form doesn't look terrible. Like, I think that maybe you could see a slight spike in that for next season. Me speaking pure hypothetical, but like, his shot is not terrible. It's not an ugly form by any means. So curious to see like if he works on that game this offseason. And look, I like him a lot, dude. 9.5 points per game. And I did say Duke might play positionless 1 through 4. I will say even 1 through 5 because Maliq Brown was an undersized center in some spots for Syracuse. So who knows what Shire's going to roll out there next season, but I'm excited to see what they do with him.
No doubt. I'm excited to see it as well. 7 shots not made around the rim. That's 7 3-point makes that Maliq Brown had this past season. 7 for 19 from 3-point range. So about 36%. But then it's worth noting, that's like 1 attempt every other game almost. So not a high volume shooter, but proved if he's open, he can knock them down a little bit. And yeah, in his 26-point effort against Duke in Cameron, he knocked down one of those 7 3-pointers.
Yeah, and look, I know what people are going to say is, which is obvious, is, well, what's the difference between him and Mark Mitchell? Like, that's what I've already seen. I posted a video breakdown of Maliq Brown on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what's the difference between him as his build and Mark Mitchell 6'7", who's not a shooter, more, undersized 4 or 5 guy. And honestly, Maliq Brown just plays longer. Like, if that makes sense to people, like, he just plays like every play, he's in every passing lane, he's contesting every shot, and you just know he's on the court defensively in every time. And that's what wins you games. He's going to make it ugly. He's going to win ugly games, kind of like Mark Mitchell, but his impact, you're going to see it more consistently.
No doubt. I'm fired up for the impact that he's going to be able to make this season for the Duke basketball team and bring a lot to that front court. Experience is key. Duke wants to get older. He's going to join that junior class with Tyrese Proctor. And in the front court, Cooper Flagg, Kama Malawich have played everywhere in the world of basketball, right? We just saw Cooper Flagg and several other freshman Blue Devils in the Jordan Brand Classic this past weekend. But anytime you've got experience and guys who have been there before and done that, that's going to be big. Also, shout out to a walk-on Stanley Borden from Turkey, who's likely going to be back at Duke for another season. 7'1", another big body, kind of in the picture in practice settings to kind of toughen up this Duke's. I think practice settings are going to be just as important for this new friend Maliq Brown in this practice setting. I mean, I think he's going to be able to do so much for the Duke basketball team. Those young guys in particular will really benefit from having him around.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, the one thing the Duke wants is, like I said, we talked about veteran pieces, key pieces, and also ACC guys. Like, you saw that Cormac Ryan was invaluable to UNC because he played at Notre Dame. He already knows through the fire of road games in the ACC, and he did a fantastic job with that. And so I think we're going to see that with Maliq Brown as well.
Without a doubt. Excited to see this Duke roster continue to be put together, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after we take one more timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Jordan Mann is here with me today, hanging out on the show. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. We've also got baseball season in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today. I'm joined by Jordan Mann, who is from the Big J and Little J show. We're talking about the Duke basketball roster. Maliq Brown enters, means we must say goodbye to Sean Stewart and TJ Power, two freshmen this past season on Duke. We had the freshmen, 4 of them. Jared McCain is off to the NBA. Caleb Foster is returning, and now Sean Stewart and TJ Power are entering the transfer portal. How do you think we got there, Jordan?
I mean, look, it's going to be conversations at the end of the season. I think the only one that struck me with the amount of people that left Duke is Sean Stewart, because I think there was a lane for Sean Stewart to a minutes increase. And honestly, you don't know what you're getting out of freshman right away in November, December. As we've talked about, I think the season starts in January, that he could have maybe slid into the 5 early in the season just in case it was a bigger learning curve than to be expected with Maliq. And look, even if he was coming off the bench, he'd probably been the 6th man where he's playing 20-ish minutes for Duke, whereas last year he was playing 8 minutes a game. And that shocked me the most, because I feel like there was a lane for him, but to be expected with the other guys leaving, like TJ Power, just unfortunately for him, he kind of got buried in the roster and the lineup, and Duke's looking to be more defensive oriented in those position groups. And TJ Power is more offensively than he was defensively. And
so, yeah, that kind of makes sense as you're kind of looking at what this Duke team might need next year, and it could be an opportunity or a better opportunity for Sean Stewart and TJ Power that they would be able to find elsewhere. It's tough because you never like the idea of people transferring away from your program, but that's just this day and age of college basketball. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of players each and every year now that are entering the portal, and now Duke is just a part of that conversation. Immediately when that happens and you don't see these commitments start to roll in, you can panic a little bit, but we got to be honest with ourselves. Duke's got open scholarships, and they're going to start to fill them. There will be more players coming into the fold for this Duke basketball team.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think the fans they freak out. We freak out when we don't know what we don't know. Like that Shire was having these private conversations with the other guys on the team, and they weren't talking, or we wouldn't know what they were talking about. And so now that we know that Duke has moving pieces from behind the scenes with Maliq Brown coming to Duke and potential other targets, now you can see more of the clearer picture for next season. And there's a sigh of relief now at Duke instead of a sense of panic that the fan base was having with the max exodus that was happening with Duke, the mass exodus that was happening.
And therefore, we'll just kind of figure out what happens next with the Duke basketball team. I'm sure we'll see more players come into the fold, more players coming on visits. There have been several names linked to the Duke basketball team already. And look, last week was a week full of players entering the transfer portal. I got a feeling maybe we're about to see a week full of more players committing to play basketball at Duke this upcoming season. We're trying to put this roster together as quickly as possible. I know the coaching staff is quickly getting after it. But, yeah, maybe, Jordan, this will just be a week of commitments that we've got coming up.
Oh, that would be a Duke fan's dream, wouldn't it, JJ? Just go have – last week was a mass exodus of everybody leaving, and now this week would be everybody coming into Duke. But I do agree that I think there'll be more good news on the way for Duke's program.
Also, just important to remember as we fill out this roster, there are going to be some players who don't play as much as other players, like we saw this past season. And for some reason, this time of year, people tend to forget that. They see 13 scholarships, and you think all 13 scholarship players are going to be treated equally, and that just never happens. That never will happen, and that's okay. You've just got to figure out the pieces that work together, that put together the best team, put together your best chance to win in March. And I think that's exactly what John Shire and this coaching staff are trying to do, right? Not every guy that comes in is going to be able to average 15 points a game. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, let alone 15 minutes per game, JJ. Yeah. Like the amount of people that I see just stuck on the narrative that you need to have a 10-man rotation, that doesn't that's not real life expectations. It's not going to happen. Like NC State won 12 games in 20 days or whatever, went to the Final Four. They had a 7-man rotation the whole season, and one of those guys is DJ Burns, who's the biggest guy in college basketball. And they were perfectly fine, and they got hot at the right time. The ideal rotation is 7 to 8 guys, because if you're going to place guys off the bench, they have to be automatic in what they do. You can't play 9 guys and then have 2 of them just keep messing up in their rotation, because that messes up the fluid motion of the game. You got to have 2 or 3 guys that come off the bench that hey, this 3 to 4 minute stretch, you got to give me just a couple rebounds, don't blow your defense assignment, and make 1 or 2 shots. That's it. And with what Duke's going after in the portal, I think Maliq Brown will be a starter from day one. But say if he wasn't, he came off the bench, I know right away that he's a plug-in guy that's going to give Duke what they expect. And that's something you need.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll see how it all comes together. We'll see the other players that could be coming Duke's way throughout the rest of this week. And we're looking forward to getting you back here on Locked On Blue Devils in the near future. Jordan, one more time, promote your work, promote these social media that you've got and all of those things.
Yeah, so you can find me at the Big J and Little J Show. Apple and Spotify podcasts is on my YouTube channel at jman_, where podcast is on there, video breakdowns of Duke's previous games. I have a Maliq Brown breakdown of his game when he was a prospect. Now he's a commit for Duke, and then a couple others are in the works as well. And so, yeah, be in tune or stay tuned for the channel at jman_ as that's continuing to grow. And I appreciate you, as always, JJ, for letting me have a platform to talk about my work.
No doubt. We'll talk to you soon, man. All right?
See you, brother.
All right, that's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And that's going to do it for our show here today on the program. Thank you for your support as always. Please be sure to follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also leave us a 5-star rating and written review on the Apple Podcast platform. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.